open lang. That is all there is to it. My stand is I am against really the candidacy of my daughter. I want her spared from the vagaries of politics dito sa Pilipinas. Lalo na itong mga personalities around in the likes of Trillanes, si Dilima. I would rather that ibigay ang gobyerno sa kanila. I wish them luck and even wish them win kung manalo sila para kanila na itong gobyerno at gawin nila ang gusto nilang gawin. Ako naman, yung Vice President ko, pantakot lang sa kanila yan. But sabi ko, let us see. If it is good for the country, I will do it. If it does not contribute anything to our republic, then wag na lang. Gusto ko sila na lang muna. Run at some other time. Wag ngayon kasi wala kang ano dito, mabastos ka lang. So as a father, I would not want that to happen to my daughter.
The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. President Rodrigo Duterte has reiterated his appeal for the public to get vaccinated as soon as possible. This as the government continues to closely monitor our borders to prevent the local transmission of the Delta and Lambda variants of COVID-19. To discuss this and other issues raised during last night's public address, we have Maricel Halili now joining us live from Mandaluyong. Good morning, Mase. Could you tell us how the current COVID-19 situation in the country is and what are the current high-risk areas?
Good morning, Charles. Health Secretary Francisco Duque has reported during the talk to the people last night that we're experiencing a plateau when it comes to the number of cases here in Metro Manila. And he also reported that there is a downtrend when it comes to the number of COVID cases in some provinces in Luzon. But the national government is still closely monitoring some areas in Visayas and Mindanao, particularly Region 6 and 11, because although they can see an improvement on the number of cases in those particular areas, they still have to monitor because of the entry of Delta variant. Yesterday, the health department has also announced that the latest instruction is to focus on Sulu and Tawi-Tawi, because this is the border between Malaysia and the Philippines, because they have to make sure that the Delta variant will not enter the country to prevent community transmission.
Stricter border control, first order of business, but then how is the COVID-19 situation here in Metro Manila as compared to that of Visayas and Mindanao?
The situation here in Metro Manila is improving, especially now that the vaccination program is also improving, because we're expecting more vaccines to be delivered in the country this month.
Right, so how many Filipinos have been vaccinated so far and how far off are we from the target?
We're still far from the target, Charles, but at least the health department has recorded more than 13 million Filipinos who have already vaccinated. The national government or the National Task Force has reported that more than 90% of the A1 category or the medical frontliners have already been inoculated. The problem now is the A2 category or the senior citizens, because I understand about 30% was only inoculated, despite the fact that they are part of the priority group list. I think some senior citizens are still experiencing vaccine hesitancy. So this will now be the focus of the national government to encourage the senior citizens to get the jobs.
That being said, Mase, we do know of the current supply issue problem here, supply issue for vaccines here in the country. Do we have any updates on the next vaccine shipments that we're expecting?
Charles, as we all know, last week some doses of AstraZeneca have already been delivered to the country, as well as some doses of Sputnik V. Within the month, we're also expecting more than 1 million doses of Sinovac to be delivered in the country, as well as some doses of J&J.
Right, Marcel, let's shift on over a bit to this little tiff between the World Bank and Education Secretary Leonor Briones initially. How did the President react to the World Bank's apology when the World Bank had prematurely released a report on the Philippines' education system?
Well, President Duterte said that it's a welcome development. He said that the apology letter from the World Bank is a good statement, considering that it's an admission that the data that has been used was already passé. And the Department of Education has already gave their assurance to the World Bank that there are some moves or actions from the national government to improve the education system in the Philippines. So it's a welcome move to the President.
Right, so that's done for now, at least. But then the other fight that's been making the news recently is, of course, between President Duterte and Senator Manny Pacquiao. What can we expect from this upcoming meeting of PDP-Laban this July?
Well, last night, the President has once again criticized Senator Manny Pacquiao and denied the allegations that there is about 10.4 billion pesos money allotted for the Social Amelioration Fund missing. President Duterte said that, he recognizes, it seems that he recognizes the leadership of Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi when it comes to the political party PDP-Laban. His attendance this upcoming General Assembly of PDP-Laban on July 17 says a lot.
Thanks for those updates, Marcel. That was Maricel Halili reporting live from Mandaluyong. President Duterte is taking the side of Energy Secretary Al Cusi, despite him being sacked by several officers of PDP-Laban. During the latest palace briefing on Monday, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said that Duterte will be attending the next party meeting as chairman of PDP-Laban. Citing the president, Roque said he hopes that during this time, their party would be able to identify a legal solution for all of their existing disputes.
All I can say is he recognizes the leadership of Secretary Cusi, and that is why he will attend the party special meeting on July 17.
World hunger and malnutrition levels worsened dramatically last year, mostly because of the COVID-19 pandemic. UN agencies report that the number of undernourished people around the globe rose to almost 770 million last year, equivalent to 10% of the world's population. This versus the 118 million recorded back in 2019, which remained virtually unchanged for 5 years prior. The agencies say that the pandemic continues to expose weaknesses in countries' food systems, which then threatens both lives and livelihood. The UN also pointed out that no region in the world has been spared from higher levels of hunger and malnutrition. What makes an adobo the best adobo? The famous Filipino dish has been making headlines over the past days as the Trade Department pushes to standardize its recipe despite the country facing more pressing matters related to COVID-19. Let's get more details in this report from Shyla Francisco.
Aside from the usual chicken or pork adobo, some people use liver or intestine meat. There are also those who prefer to put some add-ons, like potatoes, bananas, and eggs. But what can be considered as the best version of the well-loved Filipino dish?
Sa akin yung tuyong-tuyong adobo, yung dry siya, tapos may sili yung maanghang.
Siyempre, ito yung pinakamasarap na adobo dahil ang aking partner ay talaga namang may forever sa pagluluto ng adobo.
Because of the varying cooking methods and ingredients, the Trade Department wants to set a national standard. The agency formed a technical committee on other dishes as well, like sinigang and sisig.
But when it comes to local dish, do we really need a standard to identify it as Filipino? For some experts, it's the difference in variations that makes it Filipino. Like this adobo dish, the recipe of which was based in Isabela.
Ang pagkain naman natin is very diverse talaga. Hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na iisa lang. So, yung strength natin ay nasa diversity. And doon tayo dapat mag-bank.
For the Philippine Culinary Heritage Movement, there are far more important things to prioritize.
Yung mga promised subsidy nila sa restaurants na makakatulong dun sa mga F&B workers, mag-access lang tayo ng fund, time, saka resources.
This echoes most of the sentiments of Filipinos on social media, including Senator Kiko Pangilinan. Others question the need for standardizing adobo while at the same time seeking to abolish board exams. In response to the backlash, the DTI clarified that the standard will not be mandatory.
Hindi po standard ang pinag-uusapan dito, kundi kung ano lamang yung basic traditional recipe na nag-consultation lamang sa mga chefs para lang may basic traditional recipe na ipopromote pagka-abroad. Baka may umangkin pa nung ating Philippine adobo. So, kailangan nang meron tayong ipromote. At yan po ginagawa ng ibang bansa.
Shaila Francisco, VR1 News.
Now, is it possible for the DTI to come up with a standard recipe for adobo? For a culinary heritage advocate, all Filipinos may create their own versions of the dish, as we can all be considered culture makers. On 1PH's Wag Po, Clan Garcia said it's part of our culture to create different versions of adobo, making it difficult to set a standard for the recipe. She notes, though, that the unifying ingredient for all adobo is vinegar. But aside from this, Garcia said every person can set their own standards for adobo that will fit their liking.
Pag sinabi mong adobo, narinig ko ngayon sa kanina, maraming mga version dyan eh. Kasi ibig bang sabihin nun, pag hindi sila pumasok sa standard ng DTI, is it a substandard adobo? Gusto ko rin intindihin ang posisyon ng Department of Trade and Industry. Kasi baka nais nila for trade purposes. Pero yun na nga, mahirap pong i-standardize lang on the perspective of as a culinary heritage advocate. Kasi kasi yung Pilipino nga, wala naman tayong recipe dyan eh. Pulso lang yan eh, tsaka pang-amoy, panlasa, alam na kagad natin kung ito ba ang adobong akma sa atin.
And those are the top stories at this hour. Join us later at 12 noon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We're One News.